Welcome to Trans Fabulous. My name is Sasha Saidek. I am one of the co-founders of Trans Sisters United and the familiar voice at Clearing the Air at 3CR. So I have a very special guest today, but before we start, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional owners of this land that we work and breathe and share everything that they have to offer. And I pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And I also would like to extend my respect to our trans elders, past and present. So my special guest today is Nupurasa. Hello.
Hi, Sasha.
Hi. Nupurasa is a Malaysian-born and raised trans woman of South Asian ancestry and heritage. She moved to Melbourne at the age of 17 to further her undergraduate studies and instead of discovered herself.
That's correct.
Yes. Nupurasa is dedicated dancer of an ancient South Indian classical form called, I don't want to butcher this. Can you say
Yes, Bharatanatyam.
That's it. For which she has garnered a following online. She is also well known for her advocacy of acceptance in the Indo-Malaysian community through humor, satire, and moving videos. Professionally, she slays through the corporate world of the renewable energy specialist and is not afraid to challenge the status of quo to break down barriers and create success in a male-dominated industry. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I've jam-packed a lot of things in
I
there.
know, that's amazing, sis. So, well, I met you, first time this year, early this year, that you were performing for my event called the Queer Iftar.
Yes.
And when I first met you, I was like in awe because you're amazing, you're beautiful, and I love that your professionalism. You came early, you did your thing, you did your rehearsal, and I love everything about that because I'm a show person. I'm in show business all the time. I've been doing that for years. And I love that, artists especially who comes very professional. And that's how I think you're fabulous. This is why you're on my show, Trans Fabulous.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about who Nupurasa is.
So a bit about myself and I guess Nupurasa, the person that Nupurasa is. I was born and raised in Malaysia for 17 years.
Okay.
And the society there is very specific. It's a very specific, unique type of environment that I think a lot of people in the West are not familiar with.
Yeah.
So when I moved here at the age of 17, I didn't have any idea of what was coming next. I did have a sense of suffocation coming from a traditional society in Malaysia that was, I guess, mainly very conservative as well. So, I just knew that coming to Australia would be some sort of relief for me. And I came here to do my Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science at Melbourne University, which was an amazing place to do it at. I think at Melbourne University, I joined the theatre company and I did a few performances, and I think that really developed my view of the world, my perception of people that were different from me, because the theatre space was so accepting of different people. And I learned a lot about Australia as well, especially through my degree of environmental science. I mean, that was honestly the best way to learn about this country, learning about the natural environment. And I didn't start exploring my gender until I graduated, because I wasn't confident that my parents or family wouldn't cut me off financially. So I think that's an important thing. If you're planning to come out, you need to make sure it's safe. That's something I will always say.
I think there's a lot of I guess the trans people can resonate to that because of the financial, support from the family, and they had to hide their gender when they transition over here.
Definitely. So I had been exploring my gender and sexuality while at uni, but still very conservatively, because that's my background. Right, I come from a conservative country. But towards the end of my degree, I started, I guess, accepting my transition, because I felt that now I could let myself do that now. No one could hold anything against me. I mean, well, they still hold things against me, but no one can hold anything above my head and say, we won't give this to you if you don't do that. And I think that was a transformative journey. I mean, the the transition journey, I think, for me at least, will be probably ongoing for a very, very long time, if not forever.
Yeah.
Because especially if I have 17 years of context and history with a lot of my family and friends who, I mean, I came here when I was 17. That, you know, that's kind of, that is my whole life.
Yeah.
That is my whole foundation.
Yeah.
So back home, people still use my dead name, my dead pronouns. And those things you just have to deal with, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
we all go through
I
that.
know. I mean, like, I've gone through that before, but I transitioned back in Singapore, and you know, it took a while for my family to accept me for who I was. It took at least 8 years, and you know, and still, when they accepted me, they still use my dead name as well. Still, but I guess they're trying to adjust. At the same time, I was okay with it and awkward at the same time. But until a while, they have, you know, call me as Sasha now. I think at that time maybe because they still unsure whether Sasha gonna be Sasha like full time or this
true.
is just a phase, you know.
So true.
Yeah.
I mean, I think definitely true in the case of my family as well. I'm sure some of them think it might just be a phase. But I do think often with the name and the pronouns, that's often the last. It's like in the last lap.
Yeah.
Because they, with me at least, a lot of my family members have just adjusted. Although with that said, this Nuparasa identity, I guess, I created when I was in lockdown.
Okay.
I started making videos online.
Yes.
And it garnered so much attention and following because I didn't hold back.
Yeah.
Mainly because I wasn't in Malaysia anymore. I just felt free to say what I thought and do what I wanted to. And I think that inspired a lot of people.
I totally respect that because, you know, especially come from our culture, you know, Asian background, Malaysian, Singapore, a lot of us peers do not want to identify as trans women. You know, they want to just identify as women. And I totally respect that. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of, it can be very harmful as well at the same time when someone actually find out your true self. I always advocate for people to be, you know, be open about yourself, be truthful about yourself, and be unapologetic because we are in Australia. We transgender people are very accepted here, and you doesn't look like a transgender woman at all. You're so passable, you know.
That's true.
And I totally love that you're so open about your gender as well on online.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not afraid to broadcast it, literally broadcasting it.
Fabulous, yeah.
I'm not afraid about that because that's just a tiny part of me.
Yeah.
You know, that's not my entire story. My entire story is actually something completely different.
Of course. I mean, like, you know, like I said, in Trans Fabulous here, we want to talk about all our achievements here. You know, trans people don't really have to talk about our traumas all the time.
Not really,
I think straight people have traumas too, but they never talk about it. They always celebrate about their fabulousness. So we also have to celebrate our trans fabulousness.
Absolutely.
Too. Yeah.
And it's along the lines of something I say to people all the time these days. It's that if I wanted to make a list of all the bad things that have happened to me, it would be a very, very long list.
Let's say.
But the good things, that would be a very short list.
Yeah.
So I think we should totally focus on the good things.
Oh, definitely.
Because that's rare. The bad things are common.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I transitioned in the mid-90s, and you know, there was no acceptance whatsoever. There was no awareness, and family members don't even have, like, you know, the book for how my child is transitioning to a trans woman, you know, so they had to learn the hard way. We have to go through the hard way. But these days, there's a lot of awareness there. So how does your family take that, you know, your Nuparasa now?
Yes, definitely. I think their first the way people found out was because I started making videos unapologetically, of course. It went viral in my hometown. And a lot of the content in my videos is often, people ask me, do you actually say these things to your aunties? My answer is yes and no. A lot of it is a mind voice. And a lot of the things that I deal with in my videos are comments that people have said about other people around me. And I know what they'll be saying about me. Like, why is this person looking like this, wearing like this, acting like this, bringing shame upon the family? What would your parents say? Just all the whole suite of normal questions. So my family found out first through my videos.
Okay.
That was probably the best way they could find out because I didn't have to, they had their time to process, because that's the thing about coming out. the fact is that when someone's from another time, generation, place, they need the time to process, to think about it, to understand, and because they go through a whole series of complex emotions as well.
Of course.
Right? Because they had expectations, and now the expectations have gone out the window.
Yeah.
And I've come a long way with that. I can happily, I mean, I acknowledge this is a privilege, definitely, be able to go back to my family and just be who I am and how I want to be. There may be a little bit of, I guess, things about names and gender, but beyond that, no one dares to say anything against me because I've made my views very clear online.
At the same time as well, you have Nupurasa someone too with work, with your artistry.
Exactly.
I think it's the same like my mom as well. At the time, she didn't know that why I want to be a woman. I don't know what's my future gonna be, and end up, saw that I went back into college. I was doing something with myself. That's where the acceptance come back to me, and she see that I'm gonna be this person as Sasha. I'm not gonna change anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think a lot of our family, especially a cultured family, multicultural family, I think they worried about what will happen to us, the danger that gonna come to us. And if they see there's a bit of a success in your life, I think they will be accepted. This is just my assumption because that happened to me.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. It's about changing the narrative. My parents were, I guess, worried about if I'd be able to get a job in the job industry. But I was like, Australia's an accepting place. That's actually illegal to do that. Not to say people don't do that. I'm sure people do that. But it's illegal to do that. And it reminds me of a couple of things I wanted to say. One I've forgotten. But the second one, my parents are down from Malaysia at the moment. And my dad is almost 70.
Okay.
And from a completely different time. And on this trip, he has confided in my mom that he wished I was born this way.
Oh,
which is
that's so
which
nice.
is such progress.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best thing. That is acceptance at its peak to me, for me.
I think every trans person, we always need that validation from our parents.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Even though we said we hate our parents, but we still need that validation, and that is the best outcome that you can get from, especially your dad.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So let's talk about your artistry.
Yes.
That's how I met Nupurasa. That's it was recommended by one of our trans elders here, Mama Sonia.
Yes.
She said you will love her. She's amazing. And after that night that you performed, your mother from London called me.
Oh yes.
And had a chat, and I was like surprised. I mean, I thought Mama Sonia was your mother, and then there's another mother from London. And she did keep in touch with me as well. She's really, really beautiful. Okay, let's talk about your artistry. When did you start learning to do that cultural dance?
So I have only been training in this classical dance form for about 4.5 years.
Okay.
It is a dance form that is traditionally associated with femininity and females in my country, in my community, society.
Okay.
So I was not, I guess, allowed to engage in that dance form in any way, shape or form. But like a lot of queer people, we're born with artistic flair.
Yeah.
We're born with natural inclinations to a lot of artistic things like fashion and dance and art. Not to say we're not great at STEM. We'll come to that, right? We'll come to that next. So I always had that in me. And when I started transitioning here, I knew that was something I wanted to be involved with. So I looked up online Bharatanatyam dance class in Melbourne, and I found many dance schools. But the one dance school that really attracted me to it was Dr. Chandrabhanu Bharathalaya Dance Academy, which is where I learn. Okay. So Dr. Chandrabhanu, I came across one of his articles online where he was talking about gender. And his view on gender was so open that I felt comfortable and safe to go to that dance school. Because despite being in Melbourne, I was still cautious about going to a dance school where people were still a bit conservative. And that has happened to other people I know, where they've faced some discrimination because aunties talk all around a school. But so that was a fantastic decision of mine to learn from Dr. Chandrabhanu, who himself belongs to the queer community and himself is amazing. Malaysian. So it's very inspirational to be learning from him. And the more I learn about the art form, the more I learn about myself, the more I learn about how the world works, because it's an ancient dance form with a lot of philosophies integrated within it. and I truly feel very connected to myself when I perform it.
I feel like you have learned this dance, this art when you were a kid because you look like a pro. And I'm
you.
pretty sure the audience that, my audience at that day, where, you know, at the Queer Iftar, they were on. Everybody was so silent when you start to perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the South Asian attendees was like shocked with your performance.
They were a bit shook.
Yeah. And with me as well. I mean, like, and I straight away told Mama Sonia, thank you so much for recommending Nupurasa. I mean, like, this is one of the highlight of the night because Nupurasa was amazing.
Thank
yeah,
you.
and I always thought because usually all these art form people start off at a very early age.
They do.
Yeah, and you master it so well.
Thank you. I really
within 4
appreciate
years.
that. I really appreciate that because
Yeah.
that is not something that's not a thing about this dance form. There's a reason why people learn it from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I do have a bit of a unique experience with the dance as well because I started when I was 20.
Right.
And I started with the 3-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And of course the whole class were girls. I was just in the beginning of my transition.
Yeah.
And dancing with 3-year-old girls, and I practice every day.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
Yes.
I practice every day, and I progress slowly to the 5-year-old, 7, 9, 11, and now I'm with people of my age
Yeah,
group,
yeah.
and about to perform my Arangetram in 2026. And
Yeah.
Arangetram is where you perform a repertoire of about 8 different dances across
Wow.
2 to 3 hours, and it's a presentation of all the skills that you've
2
learned and
to
the
3
knowledge.
hours, you said?
Yes.
Holy shit.
2 to 3 hours is a presentation of all the skills and
Yeah.
knowledge that you've gathered for an audience.
How do you come about to also performing for Desi Q? That was amazing.
Thank
party.
you.
Yeah.
That was a bit different because I did a bit of a modern fusion
Yes,
bit
I
as
saw
well.
that, yeah.
Which is usually not my first pick. I'm usually a traditional
Yes,
person.
yes.
It came through because of I performed at your event.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I met Mira at your event and she reached
Yeah.
out to me to say, hey, there's this Desi Q event. Would you like to perform?
yeah.
I said, absolutely, because I don't like to say no to things.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
yeah.
life is too short to say no to
I'm
things.
like a proud mama there because the 3 of you trans women were performing there who performed at my event as well. So
Exactly.
yeah, I was so proud that all the trans women was giving the opportunity to perform again.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because I mean, the fact is also that in the queer community, gay men are often
Yes.
highlighted,
Yes.
and then trans women are sort of in
Yeah.
the background.
Yeah, always at the background.
Yeah, so I think that was a really great representation.
That was really good, and kudos to the organizer. You know,
Definitely.
they put you guys like the star of the night.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's what I was in awe. I'm so glad I came.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely big thanks to Dylan as well,
Yes,
who put me in
Dylan,
touch
yeah,
and
yeah.
put the whole event together with other people.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I think that is my very first like a South Asian
Yeah.
party that I went to. You also do perform non-queer
I do,
events
yeah.
as well?
Yeah, it's probably the majority
Okay,
kind.
yeah.
Not to say that I don't want to perform
Yeah,
more
yeah,
queer
yeah.
events, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think with the dance form as well, coming from Malaysia, so I guess my perspective is more curating and honing in on the art form before presenting it to an audience.
Yeah.
I love presenting. I
Yeah.
love dancing
Yes.
for an audience.
Yeah.
But I also like to work on the dance form because I'm very,
Yeah.
coming from a Malaysian background, I'm
Yeah.
very critical of
Yeah.
myself.
Let's talk about your serious part, the serious
Yes.
work that you
Yes.
said dominated by the male in the industry. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Definitely.
Like, how do you get into it?
Yeah, so that's my full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
I work for that 9 to 5 every day on weekdays.
Yeah.
I got into that because I did a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science, and then
Yes.
I did an honors in ecotoxicology.
Yeah.
Ecotoxicology, I was studying frogs and contamination.
Right.
So my background is STEM,
Ah.
science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Okay.
Yes, so
Very clever too.
so the work that I do is in renewable energy. And I basically help a lot of developers in Australia and globally to
Okay.
meet their legislative and legislative requirements,
Yeah.
really, with national law, council policy, state regulations, or international law and international policy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the projects are nowadays often a lot of onshore wind farms and battery storage, a lot of offshore wind farms. So I'm working on a few offshore wind farms for Australia.
Yeah.
I'm bidding for a few overseas work.
Yeah.
And in terms of it being a male-dominated industry, it is engineering.
Yeah.
And when I walk into a room, I'm either the only woman or one of two women in a room full of 10 men maybe.
Yeah.
So that is the actual statistic. The amount of women in that room would be about 10 to 20%. And I think the challenges that it bring me are also unique because, as you say, I have the privilege of being so passable.
Yes.
Right? I
Yes.
probably have a different experience if I weren't so passing.
Correct.
And definitely when I started transitioning, there was a stark difference between how I used to be treated and how I was how people began to treat me as my transition journey progressed.
Yeah.
And things like at work where it's, I guess, a challenge for me is when the men are all just talking about football as small talk.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, sure. Just trying to fit in, really.
Yeah.
But I had this mentor at work who was like, you don't have to fit in.
Yes.
Start your own topic.
That's it.
Ask them about anything because, don't doubt yourself. You can completely talk about anything. You can even talk about football if you really wanted to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or soccer.
I used to work in that kind of industry where it's dominated by male.
Yeah.
And the conversation is different, but I try to blend in, sometimes, but sometimes I just feel like it's not relatable to me and I zone out most of the time.
Yeah, totally fair. And I've had people at work ask me a question that I was like, they asked me, do you ever get tired for trying too hard? So later when I reflected on it, I was like, oh, of course, that makes sense why you'd ask me that question because it sounds like you haven't had to fight for much.
Yeah,
to be honest, no offense to,
Yeah.
those groups, but it's because I come from a background where we're always fighting. Always fighting.
And we're still fighting.
And we're still fighting. We're always fighting. And it's become a norm for me. It doesn't tire me out. That is how I move.
Yeah. I used to be this introvert, girl, and I think because of the experiences that I had, with all the haze, with all this, all these male, figures around me, and I changed into an extrovert person because I had to keep fighting. I have to keep fighting for my rights. I have to keep fights for, what's good for me.
Yeah, and we'll make it through because it's a survival of the fittest, really.
It is.
And at work, people make so many assumptions about me. I've had people talk to me about me giving birth or having periods.
Yes.
I mean, I'm like, okay, sure. And I mean, I haven't, obviously, if I'm not comfortable with coming out, I won't come out. It's not really a topic I wish to bring up at work, especially in a male-dominated industry. I mean, people aren't very open-minded in those sorts of circles.
I mean, we still get, especially going to GPs, as a privilege, we are possible. Although there's already said with transgender women, they still ask whether you're pregnant or do you have your period. My gender, it was there, but still I take that as a compliment. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I think about cisgender women who also probably get those questions when they aren't able to reproduce.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm like, it is still a women's experience.
It's changing, it's evolving, but we're still not there yet. And this is why we said we're still fighting.
Yes.
Not fight like literally fighting, but we're still fighting for, people to have more awareness on individuals. So Nupurasa, so what is like your future? I mean, like what's the Nupurasa in maybe like 5 years' time?
I'd like to expand my dance craft a bit more. I think I'm happy with my life. I love my job. Hopefully get a promotion in my workplace. That's in a short term, that's sort of what I see.
And you are happy doing what you're doing with your career?
Yeah, I'm happy with what I'm doing with my career, although apart from being a woman, there's also a lot of assumption when you're of a younger age group.
Yeah,
it's harder to climb that corporate ladder.
That's it.
When you're in a younger age group as well.
I know you, but like I said, we are survivors. We keep fighting. If we want it, you actually can get it. Especially with your videos, I love that you're so authentic, and this is why I see you as trans fabulous, and this is why you're on that seat.
Thank you. I mean, I feel people need to be more honest with each other.
That's it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be offensive. It doesn't have to hurt someone.
Yeah.
It can be like, I love you, but this is how I feel, so.
Yeah. Respectful. I mean, like
respectful.
It has to be mutual, you don't have to, go against each other. I mean, like I respect you. If you don't want to identify as trans woman, that's fine with me.
Totally
but you
fine.
don't have to criticize about other people who are actually very comfortable with themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And have any last words for, let's say, the young ones?
Yeah. Probably there's nothing to be afraid of, I think. A lot of it is what you project onto yourself. but you'd be surprised when you really push the boundaries, push the
Yeah.
limits, and make yourself into something. I think that really inspires other people and shows other people who you truly are, as opposed to just, oh, what is this person doing with themselves? If you show them that you have a lot in you to offer, they will really celebrate you.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to follow Nupurasa journey, especially with her art form and also her journey as a trans woman, we'll link it up for her TikTok.
Yes.
Now the younger generation, we have TikTok and also her Instagram. I will link that on Trans Sisters United. Thank you so much, Nupurasa.
Thank you
for
so
being
much,
here.
Sasha. I've
Thank you
had
for
a great
being
time.
fabulous as
No
you are.
problem.
I'm so glad that I get to know you, even though it was a very short, it's only this year. And I just feel like I know you a lot more because through
Yeah.
your Instagram and your
Yes.
TikTok. So,
Yeah, likewise,
Yeah,
likewise.
thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks everyone. And
Thank you.
we'll see you again on the next episode. This is Trans Fabulous.